Shannon, I'm sorry, I misled you last night. When we left the office, I told you it would be a horrible morning this morning on the roads, and you can always tell when Shannon's here because when he walks into the rental place, he picks out the little sports car that he can drive, and he's driving a convertible in the middle of winter in Michigan.
It's so bad because there was a big truck right next to it, and I was going for the truck, and as I passed the truck, I saw it, and I couldn't.
You couldn't a black Mustang. What more can you? A black convertible Mustang. What more can you do? So it was supposed to be pretty nasty this morning, and I think some of the folks just thought maybe it was going to be too rough to drive. So I'm going to be brief. We've got a great meeting for you this morning. Do we have Adrian coming this morning? Okay. Okay. So it's great to have you all here today. We're delighted that many of you are taking advantage of the learning opportunities that we have. And I just want to say that literally there's nobody else in the market who's offering what we're offering right now. And we wouldn't be able to do that without the affiliation that we have. So you've got the opportunities with Matt Mansfield, you've got Shannon's Achieve class, and you've got Rick here, you got Janine working hard on it, and I'm working hard, and everybody's looking forward to that. And you know, when I look at some of you guys out here, you're taking advantage of some of the opportunities that we have, and we're pretty excited about that. So it's a new year, and we want you to make the best of that. And there's going to be lots of opportunities for agents to make upward moves this year. So we're really excited about that. Janine in a bit is going to be introducing Bing Goy. He is a very special guest. When is he coming, Janine?
He won't be here till
Okay. Okay. So I wanted just to kind of start the meeting out in more of a traditional way. How has the market been for you guys so far this year? What's happening out there? What about it? What's going on with it, Steve?
Big houses are selling. I don't know why, but I've got $2 million pending. Gonna close this weekend, then I'll be in Florida.
That's not a bad thing.
Gonna be in Dan's hands, so.
Anybody else? What's happening with offers? What's happening with listings? Are you seeing any of that stuff happening out there?
We got 3 offers on 3 different properties so far, and lots of prospects. You know, I'm running like crazy right now. I'm getting a prospect almost every day.
And where are those coming from, Jim?
Well, we're making phone calls, and then on top of that, we have our feeder systems.
Okay.
Dave Ramsey
And do you think those are your feeder systems the ones that are producing for you right now, or?
yeah.
Okay.
We normally average about 50 to 60 leads a year from Dave, and we're probably almost doubling that right now.
How many Ramsey people are there in your market?
Well, we're in 3. There's 3 of us in each zip, except some areas don't have any, and so
Okay.
we're picking that up.
Okay.
Like Mount Pleasant doesn't have any, so we're over there. This will be my 5th trip.
Okay. I just want to point out something. You know, when you sit in these classes and you listen to Matt or Shannon and Jim's in the class. Jim, how long have you been in the business?
47.
Anybody else here been in the business for 47 years? Dan, you've been 45? 45 years? I'm just a youngster in that group. I feel kind of good about that. I'm 42. But Jim kind of exemplifies one of the people who continues learning as he goes. You know, I think it was a little while back, in one of the classes, I kind of made an excuse that I was older than a lot of the youngsters, and then I look over at Jim, and you're probably a few years younger than me, but Jim is one of the people who continues to learn and continues to move ahead, and I just want to celebrate those people who continue to do that. So very
Important.
very innovative.
Yeah. I'm a little slower on the, okay, real slow on the
I did not. I said you
technology.
are
You look,
important. I said you are important.
Okay, so congratulations on that anyway, Jim. What else is happening out in the market? Anybody else have experience? What's going on, Roxanne?
Since the first of the year, sell within 5 days with multiple offers.
Okay, that was my next question. What are we getting for offers? Anybody else have experience with offers, whether you're getting singles, multiples? Because that's always kind of an indication of when the market starts to heat up. And that's what we're looking for right now. We're looking for when it's gonna break open. What about you guys from Trans? Kara, Steve, what are you seeing in terms of trends out there right now?
Right now, I think we're still we've been staying steady. We had a busier December, January than what we've seen in many years.
Right.
So we're I don't know, I'm a little bit thrown actually currently with the trends because I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens next since this year was so unusual for us.
And that's kind of been across the board, across the company. It's not just been, Grand Rapids. We're pretty excited about our community here, you know. Everybody wants to live here.
Yeah.
So that really pays off for a lot of us, but
I think
it's
this
happening
first-
all over the state. It's been a real solid January.
We might have a record-breaking first quarter, yeah.
Wow. And that kind of backs up, well, first off, anybody else, any experiences out there? What about offers coming in on your listings? What about people talking about wanting to sell? Have you got a lot of stuff in the hopper coming up? Dan, what's happening in your business? Anything special right now?
No, I don't have any listings or pending right now.
Okay, all right. The market, I want to just give you a quick market update like we generally do, and this is going to be kind of quick because this is only January. We went through the end of year last time. So residentials, what do you think? January 2019 versus January 2020, up or down? Up 8.6%. Last year, our market sold 833. This year, our market in January this is new listings, up to 905. So that's 8.6% more. These are the kind of numbers that you can use when you're out on the street, you know, and you run across somebody in the supermarket and they say, how's the market? You can actually use some real numbers. You can say, you know, listings are up a little bit this year. We're up 8.6%. Average days on market, take a guess on what that is. For current listings, these are listings that have not yet sold. What's the average day on the market?
29.
Those are good numbers for what's sold, for the sales. Average days on market for current listings right now is about 3 months, about 90 days. So, now all these statistics that I'm talking about are available on GRAR, on the website. If you go to the sign-in page, in the lower right-hand corner of the sign-in page, you see statistics, and that's where you find this stuff. So this is the graph of, you probably have all seen this a number of times, but average months of inventory. This here back in 2018 was 13 months of inventory. That means that if no new listings came on the market, in 13 months, there would be no houses to sell. Today, all-time low for January, it's only 1 month, but 1.4. We were at 1.7, in 2017, 2018, 1.6, 19, 1.6. So far this year, we're at 1.4. So that means that in about 40 days, if nothing else came on the market, there would not be one single house for sale. So that's why, if you're working with buyers, you're having trouble finding listings sometimes. So it is definitely, obviously, a seller's market. Shannon, what's the definition of a seller's market? Anything below 4 months? Is that something?
Actually, it's 6 months.
6 months.
Anything below 6 months.
Anything below 6 months. Okay.
6 months is the break even.
Okay. So that's where it starts to switch. So we are in a very, very, very strong seller's market. That just means that when you get your buyers, you got to prepare them for a little bit of a chase. They've got to be willing to write offers with acceleration clauses, and I'm sure that that's what you're learning in some of the classes. January closed sales. So we were talking about listings. Now we're talking about January closed sales. Up or down? Your guess? Up. Significant, you think? Okay. January closed sales this year are up 23.6%. In January of 2019, 580 homes were sold. And I'm just talking residential now, just to kind of group them together. And in January of 2020, 717 homes were sold. So that is the number that you talk about when you're talking with sellers. So, and here again, now we're talking about average days in the markets of homes that have sold. And that's obviously going to be less than the ones that are on the market. So these guys are pretty much on track for average days on market now. In January, it was 38 days. So the average home that sold was on the market for 38 days in January of this year. We can skip all the year-to-date stuff because that's only it's only January, so it's the same thing as we have. So what's the sweet spot in the market right now in terms of price ranges? 150 to 250.
180?
I think you're both right, because half of the deals that are on that have happened so far this year have been between 140 and 250. So between the 140 and 250, about 48% of all the business has been in that price range. So if you want to target a price range, that's the price range to target as we move forward.
Another sweet spot is between 500 and $1 million.
Oh, for God's sake, Steve, you're the only one who's saying that right now. You've got
Yeah.
Steve's on a roll with those properties, and it's amazing. Every day you're coming in with something new. So that's fabulous. That's fabulous. Okay, so that's pretty much what I've got. Janine, do you have something else? I just want to just say one thing. Take advantage of the opportunities that are there, because you've got Matt, and when is he back next?
I'm not 100% sure. He's
Okay.
gonna get back
Thought
to
he
me.
said today.
I just talked to him yesterday, and I think he was looking at the end of this week.
Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
He's generally here on Thursday or Friday, so keep an eye open. He has the class that you can jump in and out of, and what's that?
Oh, sorry.
No, he has a class you can jump in and out of. So if you come in and, for example, you have not got yourself set up on any of the technology, if you have a time with him, he can get you right up to speed, and he can get you getting some of the leads that are coming in. So it's very, very productive time, and he's going to teach you kind of the basics of the technology and get you set up on Zap and get things moving for you, so that as leads come in, you're getting in the rotation on those leads. You've got Shannon, who's coming in. How often are you here, Shannon? You're here right after our company meetings, aren't you, generally?
Yeah, I'm here Monday afternoons, all day Tuesday, and now Wednesday mornings.
All right. So, and those are scheduled to be after this meeting. So that's why he's here today. He'll be here after the first Tuesday of next month, and then the third Tuesday of next month as well. Yes.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but.
No, go.
If you want coaching, I do some coaching as well, so half-hour blocks. I'll coach agents as well for whatever we're looking to improve on.
Okay. And so Shannon, I don't think we appreciate the caliber of what we have here. Shannon has worked how long did you work for ERA?
Roughly 8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years there. And what was your title? You were like a,
The VP of Growth and Engagement.
so if you want to grow or get engaged in the business, he's the guy to go to on that kind of stuff. So we're delighted to have that. You also have the opportunity in March to go to Fuel. So you know that the company has offered to pay the registration fee to go to the conference that ERA offers, and this is the biggest one of the year that they offer. So Nashville is within about an 8-hour drive from here. It's also a pretty short flight. There's direct flights, and there's still time till the 28th of this month to sign up for that. We're setting it up where you can, where if you have somebody you want to share a room with, you can do that. There's groups of people driving down, there are people flying down, so there's still time to do that. And there's also time for you. We have several tickets left for one of our fun events this week. We've got Dr. Grins coming up, Comedy Club, downtown this Friday night. That's free to you. We provide the entry and we provide cocktail and they provide kind of the fun and the laughter. Some people have been here to that. Have you enjoyed it in the past? Yeah, it's been good. So, also take advantage of trans. You've got Kara and Steve here, and Kara, is this your team? Would you introduce them again?
Sure.
I know I asked you last time, but just so people continue to put a face with a name, because I'm not the best with those. So.
Yeah, I can quick.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No pressure.
I actually have a different team here today than what I had at the last meeting. So the last meeting I had Annie's, she's your Trans Direct coordinating team. So she's the one we kind of talked about doing agent reports and gathering your commissions, ordering inspections, payoffs, scheduling mobile notaries, that kind of thing. And they kind of talked about how they put all their notes together. Today I wanted to talk about kind of the next step. So once you actually reach out and have it scheduled, then I get the notification that something's been scheduled for my office. And then I assign one of my escrow officers to that file. That's kind of how it works. And I have 3 of them in my office and then myself. So I have Beth and Bree here today. So those are the escrow officers. I think most of you know them, or at least one of them who's your closer. So then our kind of job after that is we take all the notes that Amy's team put together, and then we coordinate with the lender back and forth, and then we input all the figures and send out the closing statements, and then we get to sign with you and your clients. So we kind of, I think we have the more fun job, but because we get to see you and we get to see all your clients. So if you guys want to stand up really quick and just introduce yourselves, I won't make you say too much, but.
Again, I'm Bree. I know most of you guys here, so yeah. Thanks for inviting us. Yeah, I haven't been here before, so it's kind of fun to
Yeah.
listen and hear everything. So
Glad you're here.
yeah, thank you. I'm Beth. So well, your
You
faces
should
here
know
as well.
them. And then
Yeah.
Kylie is in Chicago for her 1-year anniversary with us.
She's
So
lucky.
she's, yeah. But I think many of you know her as well. So when you close at the North Kent office, one of us 4 will be your closer. If you ever have, again, anything else that we can help with, if you have a preference about who your closer is, if you have any special needs that we can work with, just let me know. I'd be happy to accommodate whatever I can. So, yeah, thanks for having us. Also, thanks for, Janine took me out for lunch last week. I was her lunch date. So we have a lot of fun things planned for kind of joint events that we can do.
And her husband is a mover if you need movers.
My husband does have a moving company, so if you need a good mover,
What's the name of that company?
the Trusted Movers, and he does great work, so I can help you out there too. So, thank you.
Amy, we got to get him on our preferred provider list.
So, I'm gonna introduce Bing now at this point. Bing, are you here?
Things are
Okay, great. So, just real quick, I just wanted to tell you that, Bing started as, I don't know if you read a bit of a bio on him, as an intern at Eastern Floral, and he is now the current owner. He's also the owner of of the Goy Center downtown as well. He has many titles as chair of a number of committees. He's been a governor appointee for some awesome things. And basically, he's always had a spirit and a legacy of helping others. He has a great story, and we're very, very fortunate to have him here. Thank you.
We are.
You want us to help to set you up here?
If you could.
Yeah.
Hey, let's take a quick break.
Yeah.
Because we got stuff back here. Coffee, get your coffee, get your breakfast, get your food, and take a quick break while we get this set up.
People that are at home that are watching over here as well.
Okay.
No, how about water? You could.
There's too much food back here. Staff and I are gonna, Janine are gonna eat it if you don't.
He gets so many jobs. Like we were in Bye Bye Baby last week, and some lady stopped him and he got a notebook. Yeah. It's out of control. Oh, just wearing a sweatshirt. I'll tell Kristen.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Better go get some.
I'm like, huh?
Closing tomorrow. What's that? His name is Howard, and Howard sold me all my insurance. He took video and pictures of my wedding, and then when the band is taking a break, Howard goes up on stage and plays music. So, a matter of a couple days, he was doing all the entertainment for me. But, yeah, I talked with Tom and Janine just a little bit, and didn't tell them exactly what I was gonna say, but, in 2009 to 2013, I worked at Midwest Properties right here. And probably quite a few of you knew me. But I was offered some Kool-Aid, and a bunch of people hyped me up to make a move. And I told Tom, I hate to leave, but you know, these people offered me something. Well, after I started paying $25,000 a year, they talked me into getting an assistant. Then I was spending over $50,000 a year with 2 buyer agents. And someone then called me to be with them, and that went quite well till a big bombshell hit and had a couple ugly deals. And that particular broker had to make a decision between me and another agent in our office. And I give Tom a call and I said, I need to sit down and talk with you. So we sit down in Tom's office, and like Tom said, he says, the door is always open, and you know, come back whenever you like. So I explained to Tom a little bit what was all going on, and Tom says, hey, welcome back. And I've been back since March, and everything has seemed like it's turned into gold. I love working with you guys. I'm excited about the new addition to ERA. I think, you know, I paid $25,000 a year for the Kool-Aid, and here is part of the package. And I really encourage everybody that stayed with everything, and I just think what ERA and Midwest Properties has to offer is really awesome. And I've been able to do more business here in 6 months than I did with the other company, a lot more. So I'm very fortunate for Tom, Janine, Rick, and the rest of the gang. I just take my hat off and appreciate everybody a lot.
So, thank you, Steve. We're lucky to have, we're fortunate to have Steve back with us as well. And I gave you a little state of the market a minute ago. I just want to reassure you about the company as well. One of the things that Janine and I have always done is avoided debt. So we do not have long-term debt on anything. We are absolutely debt-free. So during the times when things are slow, yes, we notice that, but it's not something that we worry about. It's just when times are better, we pick up. When times are slow, we weather those much better. I know of lots of companies that had to go out during 2007, 2008, 2009 and borrow
pressure.
I just want to turn it back to him, but we wanted to get Steve in on that.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Steve, for such a wonderful segue for you to share your story and what I'm trying to share today too. Because change is always constant, right? And change and forgive me, right? I'm reaching puberty, so at 72, so it's okay. But change is always constant, whether you're in the real estate business or whether you're in the flower business. I think that's a certainty that we all face and all we do. And change began in our family many, many years ago, in which we fled Indonesia because Indonesia gained its independence from the Netherlands in the 1940s, and then the first president-elect, Sukarno, began to feel his oats and began to align himself with Russia and their communist philosophy of governing. And my father, who was an educator, was being told what to teach, and he felt that that was dangerous. And so he and my mom decided that it was in the best interest of their family to change and to leave everything behind and to flee Indonesia. And it was a real change because Indonesia, the government at that time, was willing to let people leave with the stipulation that you leave everything behind too. So literally, the story of leaving with a single suitcase was true for our family. And so so we left there, we fled Indonesia, and we ended up in the Netherlands only because we needed to take the boat from the Netherlands to our final destination, which was going to be Suriname, which was another Dutch colony in South America. I say that only because, humanly speaking, we have a tendency to go back to our comfort zone. So that was the intent. But while we're waiting for the ship in the Netherlands to take us to Suriname, my father was offered a teaching position in the Netherlands through a professor that taught him in Indonesia. And so he accepted that because he didn't have a job offer in Suriname. So we stayed in the Netherlands for about 5.5 years. And during that time, there was a large influx of Indonesian political refugees moving to the Netherlands because, again, it was a Dutch colony at one time. So people were familiar with the Dutch culture and the language and things like that. When the immigration quotas, Queen Juliana asked President Eisenhower for immigration quotas to be set aside, to be opened up for Indonesian political refugees, which President Eisenhower allowed that to happen because he did have the right as the president to determine some of those quota numbers for immigrants and refugees. And we were sponsored to Grand Rapids by the Fuller Avenue Christian Reformed Church here in Grand Rapids. So my claim to fame, honestly, is really the fact that as we arrived in in Grand Rapids on January 9, 1960, we made the front page of the Grand Rapids Press. So here's the date, January 9, 1960, and here's our family. I mean, can you imagine? Grand Rapids must have been really bored or boring to make the front page of the Grand Rapids Press. But that's what we were. We made the front page, and some of the headlines at that time was Nixon bid is entered in primaries. Pretty old history. Some of you weren't even born. But anyways, there's a lot of things done. And then one of the other headlines is more jobs for Michigan. As things change, everything stays the same as well, doesn't it? Oftentimes. And that's the kind of thing that happens with us here as you and I are in business for ourselves, really, because we're all independent business owners for the work that we do, whether it's in real estate or trying to sell flowers. But what I wanted to share with you is that as we make these changes at Eastern Floral, I didn't start Eastern Floral. Eastern Floral was started in 1950 by a gentleman named Frank DeVos, who is related to, I think he was either first or second cousin of Rich DeVos. So I remember the story that Frank used to tell me. He says, Rich used to come into my store on 28th Street, and he used to always say, tell Frank that his poor cousin Rich is here. Like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But again, another funny story about this whole thing that I kind of try to share with people is that sometimes circumstances happens in our career or in our own personal life that we don't have control over, but yet it has an impact on where we are today, right? So Frank DeVos, the reason I got into the flower business, I mean, people ask me that, and I'm sure you all were asking that question in your mind, is that none of us in our family, my father was an educator, my mom had her own seamstress business in Indonesia. So how did I get into the flower business? Well, one of the deacons that helped settle us into Grand Rapids from Fuller Avenue Christian Reformed Church was Frank DeVos. Was instrumental getting my father his first job as a janitor at a local wholesale floral business. And because my father was not allowed to teach in the United States or in Michigan, because they would not acknowledge his credentials, even though he had 2 degrees and 20 years of teaching experience, they would not allow him to teach here. So he went, that was his first job, and Frank DeVos was instrumental in getting my dad's first job, and then my brothers and I worked our way through high school and college at that particular wholesale floral company. So I always tell the story, I said, what if Rich DeVos would have been the deacon instead of Frank DeVos, right? So I could have owned Amway by now that I own Eastern Floral.
You'd be selling soap.
That's right, that's right. But anyways, I'm excited about being here with you because I think one of the things that we all struggle with is when we go through these peaks and valleys of our businesses, what keeps us going? What keeps us motivated to keep going? You made some changes and you found out differently, and all of us have made some of those decisions as well. And I did the same thing, right? I mean, I started in the wholesale business, floral business. That's where I started when I first opened up my own business. But then as things evolve, see how even in our industry, things are changing. So I began to recognize that as the floral industry, which was kind of a quiet giant in our economy, as I began to see that in California, what used to be a major producer of fresh flowers, they were beginning to sell their farmlands because developers were giving them so much money for their land that they recognized that they could not make as much money growing flowers as they could by just selling the land. So that changed the floral industry. All of a sudden now what we began to see is that these farmers were smart. They sold their land, they pocketed a lot of money, but they still love to grow flowers. So what they began to realize is that the world is big enough, and they began to look at other countries to grow their flowers. Anywhere near the equator, where there's constant humidity, constant temperature, cheap land, cheap labor, they were all over the place. I mean, right now, the biggest share of roses are coming from Ecuador and Colombia. And right now, Kenya is becoming one of the top exporters of fresh flowers. It is becoming a global economy. And that changed how we do business as a wholesaler. So I began to see that all of a sudden, all these new farms growing and developing across the world, they had to find a way to bring those flowers into the United States. Well, as a wholesaler, we already were committed to certain growers. So we couldn't add any more vendors to our list because we weren't big enough. So what happens? All of these farms are starting to ship directly to the retailers, bypassing the wholesalers. So all of a sudden, we had to make the shift. We had to make the pivots that were necessary for us to stay in the business, just like every one of you have to do. Now there's probably 1,000 ways to sell real estate, or how people are selling their properties and things like that. And so each one of you have to make those pivots and those adjustments in terms of being able to meet the challenges as well as take advantage of those challenges. Because I always look at those things and say, you know what? Yeah, so this is a challenge for me now, but guess what? Every one of us knows that we can do something better. Every one of us can figure out a way that allows you to become better at what you do. And that just means you just have to open up your perspective on, one of the questions that I ask at Eastern Floral too is that, who's my market? Where is my market going? Who are going to be my next future customers? So for me, as I was in the wholesale business and saw this change, I began to realize that maybe even though I can't compete with these big, big companies who are now owning all these big farms all around around the world, maybe, I said, maybe I can open up the retail side of it, use my wholesale connections to bypass that layer and make my retail business be more cost effective. So that's what I did. So I began to start buying retail flower shops. The first one was, if you live on the northeast side of town, was Plainfield Floral on Plainfield Avenue. And for those of you who are old enough to remember, that was the old Robert Hall, right? Clothing store. And then, as I began to see that, and I saw some opportunities to then expand that, because you couldn't stay that small. You couldn't stay just with that small customer base. You had to expand, we had to expand our customer base. And so just like what I think all of you need to do, so look at what's my customer base. And so, don't look at it as oh my gosh, this is going to be too difficult for me. No, recognize where your customer base is growing and the opportunities that you will have to be able to expand your opportunity to sell real estate. So I expanded through the variety of things. Frank DeVos sold his Eastern Floral, which was the institutional retail flower shop, really across the country. They were very well known across the country. And one of the things that happened in the 1990s, as you may know, that there was a lot of roll-ups going on. And one of the companies, Blockbuster, sold out to Viacom, and a lot of their executives made a boatload of money because of the shares and stuff like that. And several executives kind of came together, and some started Boston Foods, if you remember that. Some of them started AutoNation. One of them started a floral conglomerate called Gerald Stevens. And they bought, within a certain period of time, they bought over 400 retail flower shops across the country with the idea of creating a floral industry that is modeled after Blockbusters. With, every flower shop will look the same and sell the same products and everything like that. Well, these folks, again, they're very smart people, but they didn't understand flowers. Because what sells in terms of a design in LA will not sell in Des Moines, Iowa, right? Or Grand Rapids, Michigan. So all of a sudden, all that stuff went away. One of the first shops that they went after in Grand Rapids was Eastern Floral, because it was the iconic, floral shop in the Midwest. They were ranked in the top 5% of the country's FTD florists, so they were big. And Frank was smart enough, because he was willing to sell to them because his kids didn't want it, and he just said, only thing I will take is cash. Because the way they bought other flower shops was, we'll give you shares in the company. And they sold them a bill of goods. And Eastern Floral sold their company in 1998. In 2001, they went bankrupt. The whole company went bankrupt, not just Eastern Floral, the whole company did. And in 2001, I was the successful bidder for the Western Michigan market of Gerald Stevens. So what I wanted to share with you today is to really focus on what do we need to do in order to survive in an industry that is always evolving and changing. And also in a country and in a demographic that's also changing. Because your market, your customers are going to look different than they looked maybe 10, 20 years ago, or even 5 years ago. And one of the things that I want to share with you, because of my work with Governor Snyder, is he understood that. He understood that if the state of Michigan was going to overcome its recessions in the 2000s, when we had this transformation of the auto industry, where I think I don't even know the numbers here, but I think over 500,000 jobs were lost, 800,000 jobs were lost because of the industry's recessions in the auto industry. And he understood that the people who left the state of Michigan, that talent had to be replaced. And that talent, he understood, had to also match the new economy. Because the auto industry was, again, being challenged and having this terribly difficult time. But what he saw was what we call a shift from a manufacturer-based economy, which is what we were, to a knowledge-based economy, where artificial intelligence became a big part of our thinking. And you know, what are we going to do with all these things with technology that's to bring to us? So all of a sudden, he realized that that talent pool and that you know, and those types of talent will come not only from local, regional, or statewide talent pools, or even nationwide. He began to realize it had to be an international talent pool, where we had to start recruiting and identifying the kinds of talent we needed to rebuild our Michigan economy. And I want to suggest to you that, oops, what did I do? Something wrong here?
Jamie, your computer just went to sleep.
Oh, did I? I do that a lot. I just follow my example. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this, and then we can have this conversation. One of the things that we have found at Eastern Floral, too, is that when Frank DeVos had his iconic growth in the floral industry, his customers will all look the same, basically, right? They were Christian Reformed, they were white, gray-haired, white-haired, no hair, all those kinds of things. But now we're changing, right? Now we're changing because our demographics are changing. We began to realize that we could not only have blonde-haired, blue-eyed angels in our store anymore, right? We could not have blonde-haired, blue-eyed Santa Clauses anymore. We had to have a different mix of inventory. And we could not just design a certain way because other cultures are starting to buy flowers. And they became potential customers for Eastern Floral. So we had to begin to learn how other cultures use flowers, what colors mean in their tradition. Like in an Asian tradition, you don't use white flowers unless it's a funeral, right? I mean, and I was very fortunate. I remember several years ago, this was a good 10 years ago, we had an indigenous Native American family come to our store and said, our father passed away, and we want a funeral piece to reflect his culture, and they brought in stones and feathers. Fortunate for us, we had one of our top designers was a Cherokee woman who understood the culture and took those important pieces of their life and their culture and integrated that into a floral piece. If I didn't have her there, we would have been guessing. And we probably would have offended them because we probably wouldn't have done it the right way. So I'm just saying that, you know, as we change, and the change is happening right now. So if you look at your, I'm going to suggest this, and you don't have to listen to me, but what I'm going to suggest to you is, as you are being challenged, and you're looking for more growth, where do you want to seek it? Where do you want to seek it? So the statistics are that the immigrant population in Kent County is growing. And the white population is staying stagnant. The birth rate in the white population is basically nil. So where's the growth going to be? The refugee population is growing in spite of the, you know, the bans on refugees, resettlement, but they are still coming to West Michigan. And the statistics are that within, I think, the 3 to 5 years, those refugees who come here with nothing are buying their first houses. That's the reality. Now, you may not like it, but they're your potential customers, right? So I'm just saying, so you've got this, you've got the population, the immigrant population grew by 15.3%. That's a customer base that you have an opportunity to reach into. That's a customer base that's going to look for housing, whether it's rentals or whether it's purchases. But that's the reality of what, of the changes in demographics that's happening in Kent County. These are the main countries that are coming in, immigrants living in Kent County.
Can you say those out loud?
Sure. So Mexico is the biggest one, Guatemala, Vietnam. The Vietnamese population in Grand Rapids is the largest Asian population in Grand Rapids. Bosnian, and there's a lot of growth there, as you probably may know, and from Canada. Those are the 5 major countries that are coming into the United States. Now, there's smaller populations. There's a lot of Bhutanese people coming here as refugees. There's a lot of, majority of the refugees that we are being resettled in West Michigan are those who come from Southeast Asia or from Africa. So, so that's, you know, most of the other populations that used to come here, and the Middle Eastern refugees are basically nil because of the ban on certain countries that has been imposed. But in West Michigan, we still get these refugees coming to our county. And look at this, in terms of, you know, the GDP of the foreign-born residents in Kent County, $3.3 billion. So if you don't have a strategy to touch and enter that market, you are leaving on the table this kind of dollar amount. Now, they're not going to spend all that money on housing or commercial properties, but there is a significant amount that's going to be spent in that area. So the question that I would raise to you, and the question that I think you all should ask yourself is, what am I doing to reach that market? Like, what am I doing at Eastern Floral to make sure that we reach that market, right? Do we change or do we stay with all the inventory that used to be carried at Eastern Floral in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s? Or do I shift that to say, I have to have my inventory reflect the customers and the potential customers that could come into my flower shop? And I think that's the question that you need to ask yourself. Where am I reaching? Where am I marketing myself? Where am I going? You know what? Let's be honest. It's going to be very uncomfortable for some of us because we don't know them. We don't know the culture. We don't know how to reach them. We want to be respectful of the culture, all those things. And that's understandable. But there are ways in which you can get into those markets. And some of the ways is, you know, finding out what the associations are that are reflective of those communities. And just be a part of it. You know, enter and attend their, attend their events once in a while. Or if they have an event where you can sponsor a table, where you can show who you are and bring flyers and materials to them, I would say that that's a good way to do it. Or, you know, one of the ways that you can also do is to look at churches and their places to worship, temples and stuff, and synagogues and all those places where maybe they have a program where you can be a speaker. Maybe they have a program, like I know there's some houses of worship where they actually put advertising in their bulletins, right? Maybe that's a very inexpensive way to get your name into their community. So there's different ways, and I'm not trying to tell you what they all are because I don't know what they all are either. I am also learning how to get into the different markets. But the bottom line is, this is the kind of money that the foreign-born population in Kent County has available to you. These are just some of these things that I use this for other things, but this is a study that was done in 2018. So these are very recent statistics. Labor force, let's not go there. I know there's one here. So here again, look at the contributions and what are the revenues being generated in these populations that may not be your traditional population or demographic that you are reaching into for your potential sales. You know, there's a lot of money out there, right? There's a lot of money out there. I mean, I'm more familiar probably with the Asian American-owned business population, but the Asian American-owned businesses generate $492 million in revenues in Kent County. What are you doing to reach into this market? The degrees, we have statistics about the education. But here again, 54.5% of immigrant households own their own homes. And that's growing. Versus 66.5% of US born. But that's going to start tipping a different way. And all I'm saying is, if they already have 54.5% of the households or houses that they own, how much of that did each one of you benefit from? If you haven't, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity for you to begin to strategize about what it is that you can do. Now I'm going to put Janine and Tom on the spot here. Sometimes, no, I'm the current chairperson for the Asian Pacific American Chamber of Commerce out of Detroit. I understood a lot of this stuff, and I said to the board of directors, you need to be in West Michigan. We have a booming economy here, and you need to be a part of that booming economy. Because right now, this particular market, the Asian American business demographic is growing. So I'm going to say to you guys, buy a membership in the Chamber of Commerce, the Asian Chamber of Commerce, so that all of you can then benefit of making connections with that community when we have events.
I think you got us on that one.
All right. Done. But I'm just saying it is, nothing happens unless you're willing to invest in it, right? Whether it's time or whether it's finances, whatever it is, right? You have to, like I do, all of us do, we all have to make investments. If we want to grow and succeed, we got to make wise investments so that we can get a strong return on our investments. So, but here again, these are statistics. This is not just pie in the sky stuff. These are actual data. And if you have not been participating or benefiting from this data, then you need to think about how can you participate and benefit from what already is available out there. That's how we as business people, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, that's how we grow. We don't just sit on our rear ends and just watch, right? We just go out there and say, okay, it's just another challenge that we have to face. And how do we do that? Well, let's figure it out. Let's figure it out together. Let's talk to each other. Let's find those entry points into that. I think that's probably where I'm going to stop and just allow for some conversations amongst us. I know I'm probably past my time, but any questions that you may have about what I've been sharing with you this morning? I think, if I were to say anything, to summarize what I'm trying to say today is, there is amazing opportunities. Sometimes we get in our own way by allowing the negative stuff, the negative news, to dominate our thinking. And I'm going to suggest to you that all of you are here not because you allowed that to happen. Because if you're sitting here, it's because you didn't allow that to happen. The challenge is, how can you grow from sitting here into bigger things? And how do you use data, and how do you use changes, and how can you be made more aware of those changes that will help you grow as an independent business owner? So let me just open up for questions. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but how many immigrant real estate agents are in this area, or are there immigrant companies, real estate companies in this area?
I only know of one Asian real estate owned company.
Okay.
I know of some Asian realtors who've been hired by, real estate companies, but I only know of one that is actually owned by an Asian American person. Yes, Keith.
I really appreciate all this information, and it's very valid. And my wife and I, we're working with a lot of the refugees and so on from more of a mission standpoint. And we have software that actually shows where a lot of these people are all coming from, and the stats go all the way up to 1990. In fact, every house household, you know, where they're coming from, and I don't know exactly how that study comes. And the biggest thing, no matter what you're sharing with them, but especially in this case, a house, is this is a huge transition time. For them to come from another country, and believe it or not, a lot of these people have a lot of money. You know, they're either real poor, or there's communities that, a certain group of people that I know that I helped sell that are very, very wealthy. They're moving into $400,000 or $500,000 homes, and they move in kind of a group. And some of them, you know, I hate to say, some of them kind of take over some of the neighborhoods. But I mean, there's big money out there, and you know, I think it's a real opportunity, you know, knowing where they're living, and you know, just like hitting apartments. You know, these people are looking. I mean, just like Bing. I mean, from another country, a man of opportunity, and you know, really stepped it up. And there's a lot of people out there that want to step it up, and I just think it's a great opportunity.
Through the chamber, the Asian Chamber, would there be resources for translators?
You know what, we're looking at different ways, but there are, for example, I'm also part of the West Michigan Asian American Association, and we have translation services. I think they charge, I don't know how many dollars per hour, but the thing that, and I just met with a city official this morning for breakfast. That's why I was learning late. You know, we talked about this too, and what the West Michigan Asian American Association will do, and you can certainly be a part of that as well, is that the biggest thing that is required, now Steve has already done it with his wife because of his work with refugees, but it's how to build the trust, right? A lot of times in quote-unquote Western white culture, it's very much transactional. In non-white Western culture, it's very relational. I mean, that's what's going to create the opportunities for doing business together. I remember a very prominent individual, I mean, I won't name names, but who was the CEO of a big company, a major company in West Michigan. They decided to open up a market in Japan, and they brought in a consultant that they used, right? And the consultant had no clue. So what they came up with, their recommendation was, you know what, you should hire this Korean gentleman and this Japanese woman to negotiate for you in Japan. If you know the history of Japan and Korea, I mean, what an idiot. Literally, what an idiot to send someone over there like that. And if you understand Japanese culture at that time, and it may still even be somewhat now, women are not respected there. So this is the recommendation to this major company, and it was paying like probably quite a bit, a few $1,000s to have this consultant be their consultant. Had no clue. And even the CEO told me, he says, you know what, we spent a lot of money, and we wasted a lot of money, and we wasted time, because now we have to rebuild that again to try to get back into that country. So that's the kind of stuff that I think we need to be aware of, and that's why the West Michigan Asian American Association, again, I'm sounding like an advertising agency, but I'm just saying, you know, we have our gala in May. If you're interested in getting to be known, buy a ticket, join us. Buy a table, join us. I'll be there. I'll introduce you to the people. If you want to put a table out there with your ERA materials, all I'm saying is you have to start building those relationships, you know, and get to know the people out there, and get yourself into those markets. Yes, sir.
Just kind of a follow-up question, like the translator part. But so of the chamber that you suggested we join, how many of those people are bilingual? How many of them speak?
I will tell you that as far as the chamber is concerned, these are all business owners.
Okay.
So I don't think the translation is the issue, but I think translation is an issue if you are starting to sell to families who have not been here for a very long period of time, right?
So if agents went to the chamber events, it wouldn't be like they
Oh, no, 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 you'll be
So
talking
that's
English
what
to
I
all of
just
them,
wanted to
yeah, yeah. No, 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 yeah. Hey, listen, you can buy one of those machines now, right? You can, right, translate for you.
I think the key thing for a broker is to hire someone that is bilingual.
Yeah, of
You know,
course.
that can speak the language and English.
You know, and as you know me, I have been one of the strongest advocates for that, because it's not because, you know, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy. It's because that's how you build businesses, right? You build businesses because your company reflects the community. You build businesses because the community sees people that looks like them in your business. I mean, that's how you build trust and relationships. That's that's what's going to give you credibility. You know, I remember a conversation I had with an individual who was being recruited to Grand Rapids for a major job, and I asked this person, what will help you make that decision? And he says, I want to see in this community who are the spokespersons in this community, and do any one of them look like me? Then I want to know how this community treats people who look like me without PhDs. See, that's how this person describes a welcoming community. Right? So I think those are the kinds of things, you know, like somebody said, and much wiser than I am, said, you know, you can't be what you can't see. So if they don't see that in your organization, then they figure, well, then you don't want me either. So it's a journey that we walk on together. It's a process that we walk on together. I know you had a question.
I had a question. I worked with Ting Tang, and I was referred to him, not realizing the family didn't speak English.
Oh yeah.
And the wife just said to me we were highly recommended, not to worry. We have a family member that does the translating. So that's how I managed to, you know, kind of hit into that market, is that once they had a family member that could translate, I was just the navigator, taking them places and,
Perfect.
you know,
Yep.
helping them,
Absolutely.
helping her understand
Yep.
so she could explain.
Absolutely.
And that did work out very nicely.
Yep.
And there was no charge to that,
Yep.
so.
There's ways you can do it. You just got to be innovative, right? There's just got to be innovative. Every one of us has to be innovative. We're all entrepreneurs, so.
Hire a good showing agent or a buyer agent that can speak the language.
Yeah.
Just have to get them licensed.
Well, GRAR has also recognized the need for this as well, and they have an international committee, and you can
Right.
go to classes.
Yep.
International. I've had the pleasure of hearing it like 3 times, which is great.
Well, you're a glutton for punishment.
And being on the international committee at GRAR, we're looking at different cultures, and we're looking at all these different things. So during that class for international real estate, you will start, just skim the surface of how to deal with these different cultures, and what's the things to do, and then how to reach to them. And they have great lunches too, so. Because they're all international flavors, so.
Yeah, there's a designation, isn't there? Ira?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
So, we're gonna have lunch. We'll have lunch here, shortly for people that are, for everybody. And, if you wanna stay and hang around for we've got the class coming up, right? Otherwise, I guess that'll be it. Jamie?
I need a second.
Yes.
So one of the things that, with the new ERA system, that, the ERA moves portion, one of the things that we're missing a link on is the information that needs to go into that system in order for those to go into the works, like emails and phone numbers. So I think with all the distraction of us trying to learn all these new programs, we've kind of stopped submitting your stuff to me. So if you like me even just a little bit, if you guys could go back to submitting your deals when they're pending, so that that information can be put into the system properly. And the other key to that is it will integrate with Dotloop. So if you are using Dotloop and you put a person, when you go to put your people into the loop, and you know how you put their name and their email, and then a whole bunch of other boxes pop up that has address and phone number. If you fill those out, that saves me a lot of work. So if you could do that, and then hit the submit to review when it's pending, like when it goes pending and bottom line, so that it can go into the system, that'd be super cool. Thanks.
Jamie, what are the two or three top things you need?
Well, the two, email and phone number are important just so that they can start receiving those emails prior to closing. And then the other thing is, and I'm still trying to figure out the logistics of this, but it asked me like where the lead came from, if it's from like a sphere of influence, or if this is like a first time buyer or whatever. So I'm working those things out, but email, phone number, most important that I need to know.
And if that doesn't go in, if that does go in, moves is free, right?
Yeah, like that's,
Program
yeah,
is
it's
free.
all, but I can't, if I put it in the system and it doesn't have that information, nothing's gonna happen.
So for those of you who have dragged your feet on entering that stuff, waited until you knew the deal was firm, you gotta start putting that stuff in on time. You know, we are loath to put in new rules, but if we can't get that stuff coming in, we're gonna have to have some type of a policy to get it in. We don't wanna make any more rules than we have to, but start getting the stuff in, please.
Did you have a question?
So what's the difference in that and me putting it into the contact system?
Cause I don't
I've
go,
been putting everything into the contact system
and I'm still,
and selecting what type of lead it is and everything, and that's pointless?
no,
for
that's,
the move system?
I don't know, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know for sure. But what I was told by ERA Moves is that it has to be in either Dash, which you guys don't do, that's on my side, or in Dotloop, cause it will integrate and pull from Dotloop. So I will figure that out. But,
Quite a few of my customers don't have emails. I mean, I have to physically go to their house. They don't do that.
right,
So
and
that's the problem,
that's-
because they're either older and they just don't do it, or.
which is fine, but for those who do, if you can give me that information. So,
Any word on designs yet?
Yes, they're, Janine actually knows more about that than I do. They have been ordered, and I would bet you'll see them within a week. That was a bet though, Jen, that wasn't a promise.
So don't put any money into it just yet?
Oh, we've got them coming, but, they should be here. They should be here within a week. I mean, we paid for them a couple weeks ago, so we're good.
6 more tickets to Dr. Grens, anybody? I got 4.
And if there's more than that, we'll find more.
I didn't get my tickets, but I did order. I said I was
No, if your name's in, you're done.
Oh, okay.
If your name's in, you're done, but